My mother used an SMS code to keep me secure. She just put it to use. Growing up, my mom was everything to me. My mother discovered my father having an affair with a coworker, so when I was 7 years old, he left us. She got the home and removed him from our life, but not before he beat her up for having the gall to leave him. She worked for several women's shelters and other organizations after deciding to put her own needs and the needs of other women first. She later worked as a social worker for abused women and children and as a court counselor, assisting individuals in leaving harmful environments. She realized that women don't always have it easy in this society. We had safety codes and words built in to keep me safe because, like the beautiful lady she was, she understood how difficult it can be to grow up as a female. She also had a unique rule that said, if I called or texted her in our secret method and got into trouble, she would come fetch me, no questions asked, no punishments that way. I could contact her without worrying about her response or punishment if I got into trouble. She told me she recognized that making decisions on your own as a teenager might be difficult, even though they shouldn't cost me my innocence. Her primary concern was for my protection. I didn't feel at ease at my first sleepover when I was 11 years old. I didn't want to upset my friends' emotions. I just wanted to go home. We used 2 punctuations in our code. When I used 2 punctuation at the end, it indicated that I wanted to go or that I needed aid. But I didn't want those close to know, hey, Mom, your uncle phoned, and I may have to come get you. Tell your bunny that you have to go. Me? Must I? Yes, please back up, Mom. In this manner, I could blame my mother and preserve face. Though it wasn't often, I did utilize it sometimes. Even though the neighborhood we lived in kept me fairly secure, I knew that safety net was there for me no matter what. The majority of my buddies were the kids my mom was always around with the shelters. They were generally really calm back kids. It was a tiny town on the edges of a college town, and I was advanced for my age. I also spent a lot of time in the shelters, where the ladies treated me like I was an adult, which was pleasant because I was older than half of them. I didn't hang out with any kids who were rebellious until I was in college, and I never really did anything dumb enough to be noticed. It didn't take me long to discover how safe my tiny community was when I entered college 2 years early. Even though I was just 16 and graduated early, the institution I attended was conveniently located near our town, so I could live at home and commute to the university. I had only been drunk a few times, but I was always careful and didn't drive with my buddies. It was a lot, my first frat party. I had never seen so many drunk individuals acting so bizarrely. It was intimidating as well as thrilling. I eventually located a secluded area where a few folks were relaxing. I started talking to this attractive man, and he said he would bring me something to drink. I know, gullible, innocent girl, I swallowed the drink without second thought. After a good 10 minutes, I began to feel off and went to the restroom when I heard Mr. knocking politely on the door. I was holding my phone, but I was texting my mom and could hardly see the screen. I'm at the redacted street. May I remain a bit beyond curfew, not Mom? I'm going to get you, girl, right now, before the gentleman could open the door and assist me in leaving the restroom. All I could see to push in my fast, blurry condition. After looking at my phone and seeing the texts he had sent to my mom, he called me a useless baby, gave me a sarcastic kick to the leg, and left me sitting in the hallway by myself that night. My mom definitely saved me from a terrible scenario. We have a code that said it was an emergency if we supplied an address. Danger was indicated by an address. She had ingrained the information in my mind. Write it down, copy it as a note on your phone, memorize the address, and so on. She saved my life that evening since I committed addresses to memory before attending gatherings. She was really concerned about me and wanted the best for me. She didn't get upset that I was drinking or going someplace she had advised me against. She drove me to the hospital that evening, when they started me on saline and another medication to assist get the chemical out of my system. All I can remember is my mother sitting beside my bed, seeming relieved but yet concerned. She saw how serious the scenario may have been. I didn't. I don't recall ever need the code beyond that. After I straightened up, she spoke with me and gave me the harsh facts of being a young woman in today's environment. Ever then, I've been very cautious. My mother died of a catastrophic heart attack last month. She was accumulating money for a pacemaker since she had always had a weak heart, but it didn't happen quickly enough. I was in total shock. I considered my mother to be a constant in my life, the rock that kept me secure and rooted at all times. In my perspective, she was unending, and I was unsure about how I would go with my life without my confidant and guardian. Simply put, I had no idea what to do. I immediately sobbed as I opened her door and saw that she wasn't there. It was absolutely awful to know she will never be there again. Her phone rang on the table when I texted her. I wanted to chuck it across the room when I saw it, but I would never do that, never be able to do that. That blasted phone was something she cherished. She loved being able to play her phone games and having all of her music and photos together. She would spend hours after she should have been asleep sitting and watching humorous videos and short flicks. That phone was her sinful delight. That's when it dawned on me, when the funeral director informed me that I could put sentimental objects in her coffin. I instantly made the decision to give her phone and clone it on my computer to preserve all of her data and images. I had a great time seeing her smiling at movies and playing games on her phone when she passed away. I smiled at the concept, and a little bit of sadness left me, though I realized it would be ridiculous and had no idea how long her mobile bill was covered for. I couldn't help but think how appropriate it would be. Give her something to hold her over till she figures out how to haunt me so that I can get her to repair it. She used to joke about coming back to haunt me just so she could play her games and watch movies. Her funeral was beautiful yet sad. Tiger lilies and birds of paradise, two of her favorite flowers, were all around her. One lady after another approached me and expressed to me the positive impact my mother had on their life. I considered all the lives she impacted and the individuals she assisted throughout her lifetime. I was pleased to be my mother's daughter, and of my mother despite my sadness. After returning home from the wake and receiving further condolences, I at last settled down on my mother's sofa and activated my phone for the first time since I had gone for the funeral. I received a missed SMS notice right away. "I also adore you, Mom." I was gazing at my phone. I knew it wasn't a fake number because there was the text I'd given her the day she passed away, just before it, for a while. I believed that this was some kind of practical joke, but I couldn't figure out who would pull off a move like this. I made the decision to believe it was just a kind friend of my mother's who could have supplied her number. Don't text me from this number. Please, I recently lost my mom and this is her number. I held out. I noticed the typing. I was waiting for a text reply from whomever had my mother's phone number, and my heart was in my mouth. "Mom, can you come see me at this censored location?" My chest frowned around my heart. I was unaware of that in the first message. I was too terrified. 2 times I went back and read the second message again, which asked 2 questions on the location of the cemetery. She must have been buried in her corpse. I asked the funeral director to meet me back at the plot over the phone. There was a problem. He vowed vehemently that she couldn't be alive. She was deceased, but no autopsy was performed. I simply kept crying, pleading, and showing him the text until he agreed to come see me and assist me in figuring out what was going on. Before they closed the coffin and lowered it, I personally placed the phone inside my mother's. She is the only one with the phone. When he was at last certain that nothing could stop my frantic sobbing, he made the emergency exhumation call. Since the dirt was still being filled in, it was simple to quickly dig her up when they opened her coffin. Her phone was in her hand instead of the handbag I had placed next her. I saw an unsent message to me on her screen. Beneath me, "Mom." That was the day the first corpse was discovered. For the last 6 years or so, teenage females had been going missing at a little higher rate than before, but most were disregarded and thought to be runaways. Families have pleaded with the authorities to find their missing children, but their requests were ignored. It transpires that the custodian of the cemetery would mark out bereaved families. He would abduct the girls as they were leaving school. Having been following them beforehand, he would take them out of their bodies and bury them under new graves, then fill them up and place the coffin inside, keeping all proof of his atrocities out of sight. Upon discovering his map and mementos, They were able to provide 27 families with closure. The most unsettling piece of evidence, in my opinion, was something a detective grudgingly showed me after I insisted on seeing it. There was a set of photos from my mother's funeral with the photograph of my 13-year-old niece marked. I'll answer because I know you all are going to ask. My mother did send me one last SMS. A week had passed since the media had all subsided and I had resumed my grieving. When you're being called a hero and having questions answered about everything, it's difficult to mourn. Even though I knew I wasn't. They just didn't want to hear my side of the story and thought I had seen something before they lowered Mom's coffin. I sent my mother one last text and turned on one of her favorite scary movies when I eventually had a chance to settle down and be by myself. Nothing magical was what I was expecting. I simply thought it would provide me with some closure. Me, Mom, I love you. I really do miss you. Wherever you are right now, I hope you're happy. I put my phone down and brushed away my uncontrollably streaming tears. It's therapeutic to experience these feelings, and this movie was just as excellent as the first time she showed it to me. The sound of my mother's SMS ringtone stunned me really. Mom, I am and I do love you too, honey.